Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our shorts program, Girls Laughing, Loving, Fighting, Fucking. I'm Shanna Macy Warner. I'm the Assistant Programmer and Community Partnership Coordinator, if you haven't already heard me say that on a million Q&As. Welcome again. And I'm so excited to get to the Q&A for the many directors of this program. And of course, when we have our traditional girls program, that doesn't necessarily mean girls specifically, as you've just seen. It encompasses a wide variety of gender identities and presentations, and many of our directors can tell you more about that. So let's go to the Q&A. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to dive right into this. We had such an amazing program that you all contribute incredible and ridiculous and like funny and silly and heartbreaking shorts too. And I would love to go through and do just a quick intro of your name, the name of your short, and then a little mini log line of your short. And if we could start with Alexandra, that would be wonderful.
Sure thing. Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Shayna. Thank you, NewFest. Really, really excited about playing in the festival. As she mentioned, my name is Alexandra Kirsch. The short that I wrote and directed and produced is called Ancient Methods, and it is a queer sci-fi comedy about a breakup between an alien and her human girlfriend. Is that all you needed, Shayna? Did I miss anything?
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, no, that was incredible. Very good log line. If we want to go, I guess, from the top down, from Saida to Rebecca, maybe, going that way?
Oh, nice. Okay, got it. Hi, everyone. I'm Saida Belosagi. I am the writer, director, and co-producer of a short called Tinge. It's an absurdist comedy about a girl that matches with her dream date and the chaos that ensues after she gets ghosted. Kind of based on true stories, maybe not.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Shoptaw, and I'm the writer, director, and cinematographer and editor of Girl Sweet Voiced, which is a very weird semi-adaptation of Sappho's poetry about two people who meet at a bus stop.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan Rossman, and I'm the director of Naomi Raplansky at 100. It's a short documentary that follows the life of a poet during her 100th year. And I also want everyone to know that Naomi Raplansky is currently living through her second pandemic.
And we're thankful to have her and to have your short doc in this mix.
I think I'm next, right? I'm Angela Chang. Nice to meet you. I am the writer-director of Top and Bottom, which is about a long-term couple whose attempts at rekindling their relationship inevitably goes sideways, and it uncovers all sorts of weird, deep-seated resentments that they harbor toward each other.
Sounds great. So I think I'm next. My name is Ashley Hardenberg out of Gehenna. I am the writer and director of the dark comedy musical called A Single Evening, which is basically about personified dating apps, singing to a single bisexual woman and reminding her how lonely she is and her navigating that.
My name's Alyssa. I wrote and directed and co-produced Break-In, which is about a young woman who accidentally sends some erotic fiction to her crush, and she has to break into her apartment to delete the text.
That's great.
These are all so good.
That's amazing.
I need all of you to just like, oh my God, connect and make things together after this too, because every short, just hearing the log lines again, I was like, yes, that one too. But I would love to start off with a kind of more general question about what was the inspiration for your film, and then if you have anything that's a general like film inspiration for you that kind of keeps you going and keeps you wanting to make shorts, features, whatever your next projects are. And take a second to think about it. And I guess whoever's just ready first, if you want to raise your hand and go ahead.
I feel like I can jump in because mine is definitely a single evening is definitely inspired by personal experience of online dating, and we all know the struggles of that. And essentially, as I was going through it, I wrote some songs, and those songs I just created a narrative around those songs centered around my experience. And a friend of mine thought it was really relatable and really pushed me. And I have to thank her, because I wouldn't have made this film if she didn't push me to do it. And so I was really happy to be able to make it. And, I think what's cool about it is I do try to do these sort of like magical, surreal styles, very much in the vein of I love musicals in general. So like I love like the spectaculars, like the Busby Berkeleys, but just sort of flipping it on its head and making it modern, which I don't think has really been done, is sort of what I aim to do. So yeah, that's where I draw inspiration from, the sort of old school musicals.
Amazing. It really shows through, definitely.
Oh, great, thanks.
I'll just piggyback off that in terms of dating apps and swiping left and right. And yeah, I guess mine was also based on personal events of just being ghosted and having these weird existential crises of, why am I taking this personally? I don't even know this person, and talking about it with my other friends. And I mean, I think we've all been ghosted, maybe not, but a lot of people that I know have been. And in terms of inspirations, Obvious Child was a huge inspiration of mine, just in terms of not only the direction, but Jenny Slate, I thought was just really hilarious and ridiculous. And it was such a New York City centric story, which mine is also very New York City centric. And in terms of creators that inspire me to keep moving forward, I would say Michaela Cole and I May Destroy You, and just her really targeting raw human emotion and always finding out new ways to tell a story and unraveling it is really inspiring to me. So that would be my inspiration.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I can jump in. So I actually heard about Naomi when I was making my last film, which is about the lesbian herstory archives. It's called The Archivettes, and it was actually at NewFest last year. I'm really excited to be back. But the co-founder of the Lesbian Herstory Archives, Joan Nessel, is good friends with Naomi Raplansky, and was like, this woman is amazing. When I went to Australia to interview Joan Nessel, she just kept telling me, like, you have to focus on Naomi. You have to think about Naomi. And then I ended up getting to film a reading that she was doing, and I was just amazed at this woman who was 100 years old, but when she read poetry, it felt like she was so much younger and vibrant. And so I just started spending time with her and became excited and inspired. And in terms of who inspires me, I think I just have a lot of respect for all the elderly queer folks that came before us, that kind of paved the way. And I often think about them that are, even though we're living through a very difficult time right now, where a lot is being questioned and a lot is being pushed back, they pushed really hard, and it gives me inspiration and hope that we can push hard and continue moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can go next. I didn't mean to salute. That was weird. It was like if I raised it all the way, it went out. Anyway, so Break-In is kind of inspired by this like fear of opening up that I have personally. Maybe other people also have. That'd be cool. But I feel like, especially as like a queer person, it's just like we learn from like a young age to be really scared to tell people how we feel and who we are. And I like to write about like what happens when like the truth about how you feel is like accidentally or on purpose shown to the world, and like how like good can come out of that. And also it's scary to send somebody the wrong text. So that's where that came from. And inspiration-wise, specifically for Break-In, I was really inspired by like Susanna Fogel and like The Spy Who Dumped Me. I love so much, and like Booksmart, and just films that have like a lot of heart and a lot of like not taking themselves too seriously at the end of the day are films that I love.
I can go. Top and Bottom was inspired by every time I have a fight with my wife, who I've been with for almost 9 years now. And every time it's always like, I thought I knew you, but how is it that we don't connect at all in this moment? And it really is about just being in a long-term relationship and thinking that you know each other so well, but in fact, there's still so much stuff to uncover, and you have to learn each other all over again. But also just the kind of strange power dynamics that do exist between two people, even if you're seemingly on the same side. And for this particular movie, I was actually looking at a lot at High Maintenance, the web series version, because each episode conveys so much in such a short amount of time. So it was kind of the intersection of something like that, but also a movie like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, where the couple gets extremely unhinged, and that kind of unhinged quality I wanted to try to get at.
Nice. I'll take it from there. Ancient Methods is based, I should say, on a breakup that I had where I don't want to go into too much detail, but it just sort of, the breakup kind of came from left field. And so a very good friend of mine just said, I was, on rock bottom, and she was like, yo, channel it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to write this story. And somehow it just changed into a human and an alien. And my therapist was like, well, why is the girlfriend an alien? And I was like, I don't know. I've always wanted to tell an alien story for my entire life. I've always been obsessed with space. And somehow I was like, all right, I'm going to combine my two loves, being gay and extraterrestrials. And that's just sort of what came out. In terms of inspiration, I think I've just always been, David Lynch is one of my favorite filmmakers, but I've always been very intrigued by, magical realism and sort of, sort of fantastical stuff. I think maybe Avatar is a good example of worlds that are plausible and real enough to exist, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. And so that was kind of just like, let's see how far I can stretch this, and I hope to continue to kind of, dabble in with surrealism while still having, issues that root the story in emotion.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
I didn't know.
Rebecca, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so I guess it's me. It's okay. I forgive you. Yes, so I think that this film for me, it didn't, like most of the stuff that I make doesn't come from like one specific incident that I then just transferred to film. But I'd been wanting to do something with Sappho for a really long time, both like because of the place that she has within like the queer canon, and then also because her work is just so strange. And I really love that it's just like both very fragmented and like incredibly intense, just like little bursts of, and so I sort of wanted to find a way to translate that into film, and ended up settling on this idea of just like a sudden out of nowhere, like moment of desire for a stranger. So then I just like took apart and reassembled all of these lines from Sappho and figured out this whole little structure for it, and got two of my friends to be in it very suddenly, last minute. And it was really like, it took me months and months to edit because it was such a strange concept, and it was hard to make it feel like a coherent story and not like a series of shots. But yeah, I think that, and this is sort of related to what inspires me generally, it's like for me a bit less like specific influences and more just like film is how I've been making films for so long, it's sort of like just how I see the world around me. And so like I'm always wondering how to use like the many different tools that are available to you in film to capture like very specific human emotions that I don't really have the words for otherwise, and that I feel I can only express that way. So it's just going to keep happening for that reason. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you so much. And Rebecca, I'm going to have to come to you as first on the next one, so get ready. So I just hearing all of your answers, and then also thinking about both form and content with all of these shorts is that, and then of course the name of this shorts program is very implicative, I think, of sort of a messiness and a chaos and a silliness. And not only is this present, you know, in the formal qualities, but also in a lot of the storylines that it focuses on kind of these messy dynamics and messy relationships and just chaos of being a human person, and especially a queer person in this world. And I was wondering, and Megan, I personally think that yours is a really interesting example of this in terms of how poetry kind of weaves fluidly into a life story. But I was wondering if you think there is a specific correlation to why queer people can tell such like messy stories about their own lives, and not only about their own lives, and fictionalize the mess into something like a breakup between an alien and a human. Why is it that we're drawn to such like messy stories? And if this is a dud question, you're like, why are you saying this? That's totally fine, and we can move on from it. But I am going to go to Rebecca first to ask what you think about that.
Well, that's like a dubious blessing, because that's a very big question. But I think like it's something I think about a lot, and I don't have a perfect answer for at all. But I like more and more, especially as I've gotten older and played around with more different things, especially with form. I feel like the queer cinema that's most exciting to me, both in myself and in others, is cinema that is just like messing with the rules, because I do think that queerness is such a challenge to like the way that stories are supposed to be told or lives are supposed to be lived to begin with. So it's so satisfying to see like a union between like that sort of refusal to follow the rules and then a refusal to follow like cinematic rules. So I think that that's sort of what it has been for me. And in this specific case, it's like I was, in terms of the messiness of the story, even though it's not, I mean, the characters don't even like talk to each other in the whole film, of course, classic me. But it's sort of about that like very scary, like vulnerable moment, the build up to like turning to a stranger and like saying hi for the first time and just sort of breaking through that social boundary, which is like 10 times more terrifying if you are queer. So I think that just like trying to capture that sort of like vertiginous, like just before the first step, the first contact. Yeah, and how chaotic that is was really important to me, and I wanted to convey it in a very chaotic way. So, yeah.
I'm happy to jump in here in terms of embracing chaos and storytelling. So I think I feel like, you know, first of all, all stories kind of embrace a sort of chaos. And I do think that in terms of queerness, and then more specifically as someone who came out very late as bisexual, bisexuality on its own is still kind of like sort of finding its, you know, there's still biphobia even within the queer community, and it is really difficult to navigate. So it's sort of like this weird thing where you are trying to find your identity, but also defy a label and really understand. And I think just that process on its own gets really, really sticky. And then when you put dating into it, it just adds to, not only do you have to try to define yourself and try to explore your own identity, but you're also trying to convey that to another person. And I think that, that sort of is the core of all of the chaos. And I feel like we, as queer filmmakers, we might be sort of drawn to those.
Yeah.
I feel like we just lost Shayna. Whoops. I scared her with my chaos story. Too much chaos,
Always.
Shayna. Sorry.
Too much chaos.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I think just like navigating queerness and then through relationships, I think that is sort of is the core of a lot of the chaos. And I think that that's why we're drawn to those stories. And even like with how they're told, like the story is surreal, like, and I think that we're just drawn to that sort of the mystery of it because we're still unpacking it within ourselves. And hopefully that's what makes them relatable. So, yeah.
I can go next. I think I might be the only documentary person here. I could be wrong, but based on the descriptions, as much as I'd like to see a real alien meeting a real
How do you know she's not real?
Fictional. I know. I guess I'm gonna have to watch the film and see what's going on. But I just wanted to say that I think, like, as a documentary filmmaker, it is super messy because life is messy, and you just have to get in there and figure it out. And in terms of why queer people are good at it, I don't know that I have a clear response besides, you know, what's already been said about fluidity and understanding. I guess I would maybe just add compassion. Like, we're dealing with some extra layers of challenges, and thinking about how to be, like, really compassionate, both within the community and the narrative that's written about the community, as someone mentioned, you know, bisexual and this whole huge list of identities, and trying to be compassionate and understanding towards one another. And I think that translates into making films.
Megan, that's you just gave me a sort of a great segue into something I remembered from a while ago that I was discussing with a friend. But I think, to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think queer people, you know, the whole spectrum of LGBTQIA+, are forced to do a lot more introspective work at a very young age as we're going through, you know, coming out as early as maybe middle school, for some people in high school, and, you know, like Ashley was saying, even later in life, which I'm sure has, you know, comes with its own personal work. And so I think that because there's a lot more, you know, mental work being done, it gets a bit more nuanced and a bit more, you know, detailed about the intricacies of relationships, of life, of love. And so I think that our stories perhaps reflect that a little bit more than maybe sort of like, you know, heteronormative world. But I can only speak to my perspective and my experience. But yeah, that's sort of my experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just thinking about my film and the chaos within it, and if it were if it was about a heterosexual couple, I think the dynamics would have just been, I mean, not to say like even more complicated, so to speak, but I think that there's a layer of when there's a guy and a guy ghosts a girl, or a girl ghosts a guy, there are all these added power dynamics. Like, if the guy's chasing after the girl, it's like, oh my gosh, she's super predatory and it's super weird. And if the girl's chasing the guy, it's like, oh God, we're feeding into this classic, like, misogynist, like, I'm chasing after it. And so I think that's really important, especially to tell these queer stories, because when you're just looking at two people, two girls, you're talking about their relationships, and you're just talking about the pure chaos that comes with liking somebody and having it not be reciprocated. And it's just time and time again, I've felt that emotion of just like non-reciprocated love, and like not knowing how to convey it properly, and trying to tell someone and not understanding, like, why don't you return it? But it's funny when I was hearing everyone talk about this, because I was like, I wonder why I spent all this money in making a film and I didn't just pay for a therapist. Like, I don't really know why I did that, but here we are. And yeah, no, but film is therapy, and it's always going to be therapy for me. Not to say that I am a therapist, but I love it.
I could just add that I think this is like also just echoing what other people have said, but like when you are on the margins of society, I think there's just some extra room to be messy, and naturally it takes us a bit longer to figure things out, and there's not as many guidelines as people have when they're straight, so you can take a billion left turns and end up right where you started, and it's all a bit of a mess, but like that is kind of the queer experience. And to answer the other part of your question of why we're able to tell this story, maybe also when you're on the margins of society, you can see yourself a little more clearly, because you have to see yourself like other people see you and anticipate these things, and maybe that gives us a bit more ability to be reflective on our personal chaoses. And those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody here has said amazing things, and I feel like I would just be repeating a lot of people's insights into it. But I do think that when you're queer, you recognize that there's kind of a veneer of stuff that people are acting towards a certain set of rules, but that those are completely constructed. And that because being an outsider, you recognize that you don't have to play by those rules. So I think that it keeps us from not always knowing how to act and not always having guidance, but it also allows us to be resilient when we are in messy situations, because we know that that actually is the natural state of things, is that it's messy.
Okay, I'm going to ask because I want to be very clear. Did everyone get a chance to go and answer that question? Yes? Amazing. Okay, so I know we only have about 5 minutes left, which is so sad because I would love to keep this conversation going. Y'all have amazing insights and answers and films. Unfair. So I would love to ask, I know this is kind of a touchy question, and I want to make sure that there's room to say, like, the answer could be nothing. We're in a pandemic. But because you're all filmmakers and creative people, I wanted to ask, is there anything that you're working on right now, or what's up next for you? And if not, just what's going on in your daily life, touring right now, these online film fests, and watching your work get shown?
Yeah, I'll just jump in just because I know that we're close on time. I mean, it has been really incredible seeing the festival screen virtually. You know, of course, I'd love to be there physically, but I have had people reach out and say, hey, your film really spoke to me, which to me is just like, that's why we do it, you know, like just to inspire that kind of feeling in someone. Returns the inspiration and just gets me really excited. I am also writing. Recently, like the soundtrack for our musical came out on Spotify, which was really exciting and very validating. It was like nice. So it's that's sort of what I'm currently working on, is making sure that we push this film, because we had a lot of queer filmmakers work on it too, and I think it's important to sort of push their work out there as well. And I'm just really excited. I'm also really, thank you, NewFest, for having us. Like, this has literally been a dream. We all freaked out when we heard we got into NewFest. So thank you. And thank you to all these other filmmakers. So that's what I got.
Thank you.
I'll go.
Oh,
sorry, Alyssa.
Sorry.
You're good. I'll kick it off to you next. I'll pass you the mic. I'm super quick. A musician friend of mine approached me over the summer, and she was like, I have this new song. I want to make a music video. So we co-directed specifically a pandemic music video, because she really wanted to film it in the empty streets of LA. So we're in post for that now. I think it's going to be super fun, super cool. And yeah, that's it. Alyssa.
Well, yeah, thank you. To echo everybody else, thank you so much, NewFest, for having us. Virtual Film Festival circuit has been really full of surprises. I miss hearing laughs, because I feel like sometimes it's all for the laughs, but sometimes I have my friends record themselves watching my films, so in case they laugh.
I love that.
That's weird, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And I'm in development on my feature film directorial debut, hopefully, just a high school queer girl comedy. And happy to be here and happy to meet all of you. And yes.
Do we want to go Megan, Angela, Rebecca, Seda?
Sure. So I'll be very brief. I'm still touring the Archivettes and now also Naomi's short film, and I am in pre-production on a film about Miss Mabel Hampton, who was also initially involved in the archives, and she was born in the early 1900s and came out during the 20s and has had a very incredible story. So I'm excited to be working on that project as well. Thank you. And of course, thanks to NewFest and everyone for having me.
Am I next? I can't remember. Was I?
Yeah.
Okay. So a feature film that I co-wrote is in virtual theaters right now, and you can find it on iTunes and Amazon Prime. It's called Lucky Grandma. And it's about a 80-year-old ornery Chinese woman who runs afoul of the Chinese mafia in New York City. And currently, Top and Bottom is actually part of an Asian American series of short films. So we have 2 other movies also right now playing at the Asian American International Film Festival and premiering, and another one premiering in Austin Film Festival. So it's really exciting.
Well, first, thank you so much. It has been such a delight to be in NewFest again, even from afar. And I think in terms of things coming up, I sort of took a long break from film, which was actually incredibly generative. And I'm just finishing up editing a weird queer coming of age story film about the relationship between a girl and a house. And then hopefully next summer, if it's possible, I'm going to finally shoot this queer web series that's been like years in the making, sort of like an experimental series inspired by Mrs. Dalloway.
Okay, just echoing everybody, thank you guys so much for having me and having all of us. This is my first festival circuit, so this has been super lit, albeit virtual. So thank you guys. Yeah, so just riding the high of festivals and promoting Tinge at Instagram at tinge_film. And I'm also working on a pilot that's incorporating African folklore with a modern twist. And yeah, that's all I'm up to.
Amazing. Well, I'm so excited for absolutely everything that you do after this. Can't wait to see it. Please bring it back to NewFest. And thank you so, so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shayna.
Thanks, Sheena.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so that concludes another Q&A. Thank you so, so much for watching. If you liked this shorts program, we have a whole array of other shorts programs. We have Heirlooms and Histories. We have our boys shorts. We have our trans and non-binary shorts. Go to newfest.org, click around, have a good time, and hope to see you at another film and another Q&A. Thank you.